What's up, YouTube? You checking out the Frequent Flyer. If you're returning, welcome back. Right now I want to talk about this ET125 by LDARC, formerly known as Kingkong. Now this is the 125, the largest out of this series that they've started. It comes with these rings on them here, tiny whoop style quads. I think they're clones actually of the Blade Torrent 110, but this one here, it's larger than the Blade Torrent 110. This thing looks huge with these rings on. I just removed the rings to see how it flies without them. I was just so amazed by how much power it had even with the rings on it. This thing shoots up in the air just like the GT110 on a punch out, and that's with the rings on it. This thing is a powerhouse. These motors here I think are the culprit. These are the Sunny Sky 1104 7500 kV motors. But they seem like they're a higher kV than 7500 because these things really have some punch to them, to the point that I'm wondering if these ESCs can actually handle the power demand of these motors here. And the reason I'm saying that is because I did blow my ESCs twice on this thing. I was flying this thing in the snow. I admit I was doing something I probably shouldn't have been doing, but I tapped a tree and the tree had some snow on it and the snow fell on the quad, and I think some of the snow might have fallen inside. Well, that's what I thought anyhow, because maybe a minute or two later I was still flying it and it just spun out of control, did a flip of death. But it wasn't a normal flip of death caused by power or anything. It didn't seem anyhow because it didn't really reset the ESCs. I swapped out the 4-in-1 ESC with one of the 4-in-1 ESCs from the Fly Egg series, the Fly Egg 130 to be exact. I used that 4-in-1 ESC to replace this one. It's the same exact stack, so it just plugged right in. All I had to do was just solder the motors to that ESC and all the motors were working again, and this thing was flying great. But I went out flying it again in this form here without the rings on it, so it's definitely lighter, and these props here are more efficient than the props that it came with. But it still did a death roll after flying late in the flight. It just did a death roll the same exact way and crash landed. And when I checked it out again, another ESC was burned out. So now I think it's this motor here, one of the motors. I don't know which one it is exactly, but I know one of the motors don't spin up now, and I'm suspecting that it's the 4-in-1 ESC again. And so these Sunny Sky motors are really powerful, really nice motors. I like them. All of the new Kingkong models seem to be using Sunny Sky motors, and I think that's a good thing. Really loving the upgrade on the case that Kingkong is using. As you can see, I got props in mine though. These cases come in really handy, but this time the craft actually fits inside the case even with the rings on it. Before, it didn't really fit inside the case with the props on it. And so really nice upgrade on the case storage. Really loving the storage and all the accessories that they're supplying us with. Kingkong is really killing it this year. They're actually my vote for the company of the year for creating these quads. They've really been killing it. They've been bringing out some solid models, especially on the micro brushless scene. The motors are awesome. Sunny Sky motors get the thumbs up from me. Really a fan of Sunny Sky motors now. And this thing is just a great flyer. Flies really nice, but I'm really wondering with these rings on it, what place does this thing have? It's a super large whoop. It has tons of power, but I really don't realistically see anyone wanting to fly this indoors. It's really big. I have flown it indoors though, and it's possible, but this thing has so much power that a slip of the throttle could have you hitting the ceiling really hard or damaging something. Even with these rings on it, these rings are pretty large, and so I think they're a little more fragile than the smaller ones, because I did manage to crack one of them. And from what I understand, they're supposed to be virtually indestructible, but these things are really tough. But I crashed it pretty good. I hit it pretty hard. I think I ran into a tree or something. Not sure. Don't remember, but I know it cracked, but it's pretty firm now again because I used epoxy. Epoxy is the best thing for these little quads, I think. It's probably the best out of the series as far as flying outdoors, but indoors it's a little big though. A little large and a little too much power for indoors. Still no OSD, but they do have a buzzer in here, so that's a plus. They did give us a GMB battery as well. So they're giving us an awesome battery now, but I wanted to show you guys the VTX. It's the same VTX from the Fly Egg series. The default is 100 milliwatts and it is switchable to 25 milliwatts, but you have to do some soldering. You have to unbridge some pads on here in order to get the 25 milliwatts. So underneath here, there were 3 screws we had to remove, and you need a Phillips screwdriver to do so. 1, 2, and 3, those 3 white spots. And then you can just pop this. We're not going to take it all the way off. I just wanted to look at this socket here. This is the plug here. This is the same exact plug that goes into the micro swift. So you just need a double-sided version of this cord here. So in other words, you need this plug here on this side, and then on the other end you need this plug again. And you can plug it right in here, plug the other end into the micro swift. And if you get the micro swift with the narrow lens, you can probably just shove that right through here. I think this is way too large of a model to have those tiny whoop style rings on it, because usually those rings are on the tiny whoops to really allow you to do some proximity flying and bump into things and keep going. But I think outdoors, the thing that most of us are going to be flying around is trees, and these things seem like they are just bad news for tree branches. You're just looking to get your quad hung up in a tree somewhere, flying with these rings on it. I think you have a better chance of navigating through trees without the rings on it. I would get the ET100 if I was going to fly it indoors, and I would probably get the 115 if I wanted to fly indoors and outdoors and keep the rings on it. I would get this only to remove the rings and just fly this thing outdoors, have tons of power, and have a great flyer. One last thing, these props here are 25-40 props, so they're 2.5 inches, and you can see we have more room here. I think you probably can fit 3-inch props on here. These props here are 3 inches. They're the Kingkong style props, but they're 3 inches. And look, we still have some more room after this. So I think I'm going to try to fly this thing with these props. And these props are 30-30, so less pitch on them. So I'm expecting them to probably play nice with this because it's less pitch on it, so it should be less amp draw. But they are 3 inches, so I don't know. We're going to see how that play out. So the Kingkong ET125. Tons of power and a giant whoop. Thanks for watching.